Okay, so have you ever felt just overwhelmed by the sheer volume of spiritual knowledge out there? Yet, you've yearned for something deeper, more transformative prayer life. What if there was this, well, profound path revealed through mystical experiences that promised a kind of shortcut, not just to knowing stuff, but to actually living a divine life?
That's exactly it. That's the incredible journey we're diving into today. This whole concept of living in the divine will.
Hmm.
It's a mystical path aiming for this really intimate, profound union with God,
Hmm.
something that wants to transform your whole being.
Right.
And it's not just about, doing God's will like simple obedience or resignation. It's way more. It's about allowing God's will to become the actual life, the breath, the operation inside you.
That's a huge distinction, isn't it? Moving from just obeying to, well, embodying God's will. That's radical. And for this deep dive, we're drawing on some pretty unique sources. We'll be looking into the teachings, the mystical experiences tied to the divine will, specifically from the writings of a servant of God, Luisa Piccaretta.
She's on the path to possible sainthood.
Right, a crucial first step. And we're also looking at insights from the church about these deep spiritual ideas.
Yeah, our mission today really is to unpack some of the key terms, the practical steps you might find in these sources. We want to show you how these ideas might not just change your prayer life, but like your whole day-to-day existence.
Hmm.
And we'll be using the Blessed Mother, Mary, as our, supreme guide and the ultimate model for this whole journey.
Okay, great. So let's get into that core concept, living in the divine will. Because, like you said, when most of us hear God's will, we think commandments, maybe accepting tough stuff. But these sources describe something much, much more. How does this living part go beyond just obedience?
It's a total paradigm shift, really. The texts make it clear. Living in the divine real isn't just obeying rules or passively accepting things. It's about God's will becoming the life, the breath, the engine operating inside your soul.
Inside. Okay.
There's this one passage that really nails it. My will becomes the life of this soul in such a way that whatever thing it may dispose over her as well as over others, she is content with everything.
Hmm.
You see, it's not just outward agreement. It's this inner active participation where your own will gets infused, almost absorbed by God's.
So it's not just my will trying to match God's, but God's will actively flowing through me, animating everything I do. That sounds, incredible, almost overwhelming.
It is exactly this continuous indwelling. It divinizes the soul, makes her noble, pure. The writings even say a queen in God's eyes. It's presented as the beatitude of all on earth. Think about that, bringing joys most ineffable and the pleasures most pure.
A taste of heaven right here.
That's the idea. And the transformation is so radical, so intimate. The soul becomes so united with God's will that, and this is a direct quote essentially, it's no longer possible to discern which one is my will and which one is hers. It's a complete fusion.
Wow, that really blurs the lines, doesn't it, between human and divine. And the sources even make that really striking claim that one who does my will, instead of being judged, acquires the right to judge others. That just underlines the profound change, the authority this union brings. So, okay, someone listening is thinking, this sounds amazing, but how? How do you even begin to approach something so transformative in practice? What are the key concepts, the daily practices?
Good question. Let's start with what the writings call acts in the divine will. This is really foundational. It basically means consciously uniting your thoughts, your words, your feelings, all your actions with the divine will.
Consciously uniting.
Yeah. The goal is to let God's will operate through your human will. So every single moment becomes an act of love united with God. It's not about doing more necessarily, but doing everything differently from the inside out.
Okay, so if I'm doing something really ordinary, like, I don't know, making coffee or facing a tough meeting, it's not just the task itself. It's consciously offering it, letting the divine will flow through it. Is that the idea? How does that actually work? What's the effect?
Exactly. It's all about the intention, the inner disposition. You're consciously inviting God's will, which is everywhere, right, into your specific small act. And the sources tell us each time the soul enters by volition and prays, works, suffers, etc., she acquires as many new divine beauties.
Hmm.
So it's not just a nice feeling. You're literally participating in God's own creative power, making even tiny gestures into divine acts with eternal weight.
Mundane to sacred.
Right. And a key step here is preparing yourself, becoming ready for this union. The writings use this really strong analogy. They say a soul needs to get rid of its humors, things like complacency, self-satisfaction, maybe even too much self-esteem. When you do that, you become like dry wood.
Dry wood. Okay.
And when you're like dry wood, One spark alone is enough to convert her completely into fire of divine love. This sort of radical self-emptying makes space for God's will to just ignite within you.
That's a powerful image. Dry wood, ready for the divine spark, really speaks to needing some deep inner purification.
Okay, so that's individual acts. What about rounds in the divine will? That sounds more formal, more expansive as a prayer practice.
Rounds are definitely specific, yeah. And very profound, unique to these writings, really. It's where the soul, united with the divine will, consciously goes around, like traces all of God's acts. Creation, redemption, past, present, future.
Goes around, traces them.
Yeah, it means acknowledging them, loving them, and then offering them back to God as his own acts, but doing it in the name of all creatures. It's like this cosmic prayer. You're essentially making God's own will as it unfolded in creation and redemption, your prayer. Whoa. Okay, let me see if I get this. So I'd think about, say, the sunlight, the sky, creation itself, then Christ's suffering, his resurrection, and I'd offer all that beauty, that glory, that redemptive power back to God, but as if it were my own act of love and reparation. That's
Extraordinary. You've got it exactly. The whole point is to make all of God's acts, from the tiniest atom to the biggest galaxy, Adam's first breath to the last person dying, and especially everything about Christ's life, death, and resurrection, your own. And then, yes, you offer them back to God, an infinite gift of love, reparation, adoration.
Wow.
The sources really emphasize how valuable this is. They pose the question, like, you spend time doing this. What good is it? What glory does it give God? And the answer is breathtaking. It says essentially, by her living truly in it, the divine will, and having bound everything to herself, I find in the soul the love as my will loves and can love.
Right.
This practice makes you a bearer of goods for everyone, a really powerful way to intercede, to make reparation, restoring glory to God for all creation.
That completely reframes prayer, doesn't it? It's not just asking for stuff. It's actively giving back to God what's already his, but now through my will joined to his. Wow. Okay, now what about fusion, transformation, or identification? These sound like the absolute peak, the goal of this whole thing.
They definitely describe the deepest state, yeah. The most intimate union you reach when you live consistently, intentionally, continuously in the divine will. It's this profound spiritual process where your human will becomes so united with the divine will, they become, quote, one single thing.
One single thing.
Yeah. It's not like you disappear, not a loss of your identity, but it's divinized. The sources use a great analogy. Love is fire, and whatever woods are thrown into the fire, small or big, green or dry, they all take the form of fire and convert into fire itself. Your will gets consumed by, transformed into divine love.
Like spiritual alchemy.
Kind of. And the outcome, another passage says, is a consummation in the unity of wills that forms the supreme unity. It means your actions, thoughts, desires are so perfectly aligned with, so soaked in God's will, they become indistinguishable. You basically become an instrument of the divine.
That's incredibly profound. Okay, and then there's volition. How does that fit in? Is it different from divine will? Why slightly different word?
Volition is often used pretty much interchangeably with will, like divine will, supreme volition, eternal volition. The difference isn't really about what it is, but more about emphasizing the active, living, operating power of God's will.
Ah, the active part.
Exactly. It highlights that God's will isn't static, not just a set of rules. It's a continuous, dynamic, creative force. So it's not just passive acceptance of God's plan, but an active participation in God's ongoing creation and sustaining work. One text puts it metaphorically, breath without body, the creature is the body, my will is the breath. Beautiful, isn't it? It conveys God's essence darting through the soul, giving it divine substance and nobility. So maybe think of divine will as what it is, and volition as emphasizing its dynamic, energetic, operating aspect within you.
Fascinating. So it's alive, activation, like God's breath animating us. Okay, last key term, bilocation. Now, usually that means being physically in two places at once. How does that apply here, spiritually? What's the impact?
Right. Good clarification. In this context, the divine will context, bilocation isn't about physical presence in two places, no teleporting involved. Instead, it refers to God's ability to make his divine being, his operations, present within the acts of the soul living in his will.
Within the acts.
Yes. So these acts, even though they start with us, humanly, and might seem small, they take on divine power. They have effects that reach far beyond what we can see, almost cosmic effects. It's like a radical spiritual co-working. God literally magnifies and permeates our small human actions, giving them a divine quality and omnipresent reach. It's different from physical travel.
So my simple act, if it's done in union with the divine will, it can actually have a divine scope, an impact beyond time and space. That's astounding. Like my tiny action becomes a channel for God's infinite power.
That's exactly the idea. The sources explain it like this. We bilocate our divine being, and we enclose it in the step and the act and the little love of the creature to have our highest contentment of receiving through her our life or glory and all our goods. It means the soul can effectively give to God as her own what belongs to God. It restores this infinite return to God for his infinite love in creation. It's a miraculous sharing in God's own action and effectiveness.
That really does change how you think about the power of small things. Okay, now, you mentioned Mary, Mother of God, as the ultimate model for all this. How does she embody living in the divine will? What can we learn from her perfect fiat?
Mary is just.
Yeah.
The archetype, the perfect example, because her whole life was one seamless fiat, a continuous yes to the divine will. Her immaculate conception itself, the sources say, was prodigious and all marvelous, precisely because she was conceived and lived totally within that immense sea of power, infinite sea of wisdom, immense sea of eternal love, the divine will. From the very first moment she existed, her soul just breathed and operated purely in God's volition.
So it was that perfect alignment right from the start that made her unique, prepared her to be the Mother of God.
Precisely. Her perfect life of the divine will was what uniquely allowed her to become the Mother of God. The writings actually state, had she not possessed my will, she could not have been mother to me, either in the human order or in the divine order. Think about the Annunciation. Her fiat wasn't just obedience. It was the supreme act in the divine will. Through it, God himself entered humanity.
Wow.
And every breath, every thought, every step she took after that, through Nazareth, joys, sorrows, all the way to Calvary, was like a continuous round in the divine will, offering God his own love and life back to him. Because the divine will lived perfectly in her, she surpassed the whole creation. She is queen in the midst of creation. She's called the new heaven, the most refulgent sun. Her total surrender made her queen and mother.
That's such a powerful picture of Mary living out these concepts. And what about her role now? For this kingdom of the divine will, how is she still our guide?
Well, Mary has this intense desire for the kingdom of the divine will to come fully to earth. For all of us, her children, to live in the same divine life she did. The sources describe her praying constantly these assaults of love on God to get this for us. She says this to me with such ardent sighs, with flaming heartbeats, with her stratagems of love of mother, such that I cannot resist her. She deeply wants her children to live in the same will as their queen. She's the ultimate intercessor for this gift for all of humanity. She's actively drawing souls into this union, wanting us to share her perfect fiat.
That gives us such a rich understanding of the goal and the perfect example in Mary. Okay, so for people listening who feel drawn to this, maybe thinking, I want to try this, how do you actually start this journey? How do you nurture that prayer life, especially with, modern life being so busy and complex?
It starts with a decision, a firm, intentional choice, a decisive yes, a fiat like Mary's. The sources say something beautiful. As soon as the creature truly decides that she wants to live in my divine will, and at any cost never to do her own, my fiat, with an unspeakable love, forms the seed of its life in the depth of the soul. So that initial yes, it's a profound act of giving yourself over, consciously choosing to let God's will lead. It's not about being perfect instantly, but about that first resolute commitment and the ongoing intention to live it.
So it's the resolve, the determination that counts, not waiting until you feel good enough or perfect. And what does that total self-giving look like day to day?
It means a complete giving of yourself to God, a continuous inner offering. Jesus says, one who wants everything from God must give all of himself to God. Practically, that means continually setting aside our own human will, our preferences, our attachments, even sometimes our own good ideas, to make space for God's will to operate.
Letting go.
Exactly. The focus shifts. It's less about doing things for God and more about allowing God's will to do it in you.
Yeah.
You learn to pray differently, asking, pray to me that my will may do it in you. It's an invitation for God to act within you. You become like a channel. And this changes everything, how you pray, how you do chores, everything. You start consciously offering your breathing, your heartbeat, your walking as acts in the divine will.
That's a fundamental shift, isn't it? From I do for God to God acts through me. What about the hard parts, the challenges on this path? Because aiming for such deep union sounds like it wouldn't always be easy.
You're right. It's not always easy. The sources talk about suffering being part of the path, something that unites the soul ever more closely to me. And this isn't just external hardship. Often it's an inner purification. One specific challenge mentioned is the privation of Jesus, that feeling of his absence, spiritual dryness, desolation.
Ah, the dark night feeling.
Yeah. Something like that, yeah. It's described as the most painful and most bitter thing, a divine pain that purifies and consumes the soul. It feels like abandonment, a real trial. But the point is to purify your love, detaching it from feelings or consolations, focusing it purely on God himself for his own sake. Voluntarily accepting this suffering, this privation, like a true victim imitating Christ, is actually key to the journey. It's part of letting God's will operate fully in you.
So even in those really tough, dry times, there's a deep purpose. It's shaping us, purifying us for the divine will. Okay. And besides enduring trials, what else helps nurture this life day by day?
Two big things. Focus on the present moment and focus on love. Jesus says, do not look at the past because the past is already in me. The past is forgiven. The future's in God's hands. All we really have is right now.
Be present.
Exactly. And love is the engine, the ultimate goal. Love surpasses everything. It's the sweet and delightful note God wants to hear. The sources encourage continuously saying, I love you to God in all our acts, uniting our little I love you with his infinite love moment by moment. That simple, constant act of love offered in the divine will becomes the soul's breath.
That's beautiful. And finally, just briefly, but it's important the Church's view on these writings for listeners discerning this path within Catholicism.
Right. So the writings on the divine will are officially still under study by the Church. It's a process. However, it is significant that figures like the late Archbishop Piccaretta, he was the Archbishop of the diocese where Luisa Piccarreta lived, he publicly recommended reading the writings, and he encouraged prayers for her beatification. So that suggests, an ongoing study, but also a generally positive view from the Church, allowing the faithful to explore these teachings cautiously, but hopefully.
That's helpful context. Well, this has been an absolutely incredible deep dive into living in the divine will. It really is a profound call, isn't it? A call to a relationship with God that transforms everything, where your life gets tangled up with his, radiating his love, his power, with Mary as the model.
It really does. It offers not just a theory, but a practical, daily way towards deep union, and an amazingly effective prayer life can change every single act.
So as you go about your day now, maybe consider this. If God's will truly is a living breath, and your soul is its body, what would it actually mean for you? For you to truly allow God's will to palpitate, to breathe, to operate entirely within you, transforming every moment into an echo of heaven itself? What would it mean to participate in God's own creative act through your, seemingly small daily choices? And how might that just accelerate your spiritual journey in ways you maybe never even imagined? It's definitely a powerful thought to carry with you, an invitation perhaps to explore this path even deeper.